It was a typical afternoon at one of the country's busiest airports. The lines were long, travelers hurried to their gates, and the buzz of announcements filled the air. Among the crowd was Darius Jones, a calm and confident black man dressed in a white t-shirt and jeans, waiting patiently to board his flight. This was a routine trip for him, just another flight in a long list of work-related travels. But today, things would take an unexpected turn. As he approached the gate, boarding pass in hand, two police officers suddenly appeared in his path. They wore stern expressions, their body language tense. Without explanation, they stopped him, asking him to step aside. Confusion washed over Darius's face as the eyes of curious onlookers shifted toward him. The murmurs started. People began to wonder why he was the one being singled out. "Can I ask what's going on?" Darius asked, keeping his composure, though his pulse quickened. The officers glanced at each other before one of them spoke. "We've received a report about a suspicious individual, and you matched the description." Darius was taken aback. Suspicious? He hadn't done anything wrong. He was just another traveler, like everyone else in the terminal. Yet, as he stood there, surrounded by security, it was clear the situation was escalating quickly. The whispers grew louder. People pulled out their phones, recording the scene, speculating about what was happening. It was clear to Darius what this was: racial profiling. He had faced it before, and now it was happening again, in front of hundreds of strangers. One officer asked for his identification, which Darius calmly handed over. They inspected it closely, their expressions betraying doubt. Moments felt like hours as Darius stood there, the weight of judgment pressing down on him. He knew this was more than just a misunderstanding. This was a reflection of something bigger, something many people like him had experienced. And he wasn't about to let this go unnoticed. As the officers continued to question him, Darius calmly reached into his pocket and pulled out a second piece of ID. This one, however, left the officers and the surrounding crowd in complete shock. "I am Special Agent Darius Jones," he said, holding up his badge. The air seemed to freeze around him. The officers' faces paled as they realized who they were dealing with. The murmurs from the crowd instantly changed, from suspicion to astonishment. They had just witnessed something far bigger than a simple airport incident. The officer who had been leading the questioning stammered, struggling to find words. We didn't know," the officer muttered, taking a step back. "You didn't ask," Darius replied firmly but calmly. "You saw my appearance and assumed the worst. That's the problem." A powerful silence followed. The crowd, many of whom had been quick to judge, now felt the weight of their assumptions. Some lowered their phones, shame crossing their faces. It was a moment of realization, not just for those involved, but for everyone watching. Darius continued, addressing both the officers and the gathering crowd. "This happens far too often. People like me are treated as suspects before we are even given the chance to be seen as individuals. It's not just about me, it's about how we're seen in this world." In the following hours, the officers offered their apologies and released him, but the impact of the incident spread far beyond that terminal. The video, captured by dozens of onlookers, quickly went viral, sparking conversations around racial profiling and the need for systemic change. People across the nation began discussing the deeper issues: how law enforcement and society too often judge people by their appearance rather than their actions. The incident prompted swift action. The airport implemented mandatory anti-bias training for all staff and security personnel, ensuring such incidents would not happen again. Additionally, the officers involved were temporarily reassigned while the situation was thoroughly reviewed. More importantly, law enforcement agencies across the country took notice, recognizing the urgent need for reform and accountability. But for Darius, it was about more than just one incident. He became a voice for change, speaking out at events and using his platform to highlight the importance of addressing racial bias and inequality. "We must confront the biases that exist within our systems," he said in interviews and public appearances. "This isn't just about what happened to me. It's about making sure it doesn't happen to anyone else." The message was clear. Racial profiling and unfair treatment must end. It wasn't just about airports, but every corner of society where people are judged by the color of their skin rather than the content of their character. Darius's story was a reminder that we must all work together to ensure that justice is served for everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from. The incident left a lasting impact, not just as a viral moment, but as a powerful call for change. The world had seen the truth, and now, more than ever, there was no turning back. Real reform was no longer an option, but a necessity.